Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
You can put it on the board. Yes!
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Master Sal, live from Las Vegas in the MTV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA, prime, Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste those best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes, and hell, wait till you try those half-pound Wagyu burgers. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in, everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody else watching our Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, WOW, and independent cable affiliates. Thanks for joining us as well. It's everybody on Hotel TV, where applicable, in all Nielsen rated markets, plus streaming devices, streaming services. Pick your favorite: Apple, Amazon, Audible, Pandora, Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Deezer, plus all independent affiliates and all, I'm just rambling at this point, and all of our social media affiliates as well. All right, folks, listen, it's the heart of baseball season, and we're talking baseball. Why? Because we can, and a lot of people have been asking for it, so and first, by the way, folks, look, baseball, they try to make all these rule changes and this, that, and the other. I'm not going to get into any of that stuff today, but there's all these so-called changes and this, that, and the other, and I think that Rob Manfred is tinkering with the game a little bit too much, and frankly, just leave the damn game alone. Look, the game's been around for, 150 years. They've actually played 241,148 games, I guess, as of today, whatever. That's a lot of games. Over 2,169,694 runs have been scored. There have been over 16,290,906 at-bats, 4,251,204 hits, 334,201 stolen bases. See where we're going with this one, folks? That's right. 4,251,839 innings pitched. Now, mind you, this is not the Major League historical totals. This is the from 1876 forward. This doesn't include the 1871. We want to go there? Let's add 5 years. That means 242,234 games, 187,000 plus runs, 16,380,000 plus at bats, 4,275,000 and change, almost 4,300,000 hits. Almost 340,000 home runs. You see where we're going with this, folks. And look, here's the other side of it. 874 managers managed the game in these 155 total years. 23,442 players. That's a lot of players, man. How about 416,994 double plays? 570,149 errors. If you think they're perfect, well, they've proven it over 570,000 times that they're not perfect. How about hit batsmen? Boy, talk about pain. 222 hit batsmen, 77,706 saves, 1.5 million walks plus, almost 2.5 million strikeouts. You see where we're going with this, folks? Look, this isn't something that just kind of happened. This has been going on for a very, very, very long time. And so if you're trying to say, well, the baseball games are too long, and we need to have them timed. And our doubleheaders, we need to have those at 7 innings and 7 innings because the fans don't want to see a full 9 innings. That's a bunch of nonsense. Real baseball purists want to see a real game that goes the real distance with no time frame allowed. Now you just go until you finish. And let's face it, going out to see a baseball game back in the day, when I say back in the day, I'm saying that, look, people simply want to go to the game and they want bonus baseball. They want extra innings. They want a doubleheader to be one game right after another like it used to be when I used to go to the games back in the day as a kid at Wrigley Field. Again, I've told the story 100 times. I'll tell you 101 times. I'd go there, it'd take me a quarter to get down there on the train, $1 to get in, a quarter for a Coke, a quarter for a hot dog, and a quarter to get home. For $2, I'd have a doubleheader. That's right. In today's time, they split the doubleheaders, then they play 7 innings apiece, just like they would maybe in Little League or something else, maybe high school ball, which is a bunch of nonsense to me. So, look, with all this history for 155 years, why make any changes in the game whatsoever? The game's been good for 150 plus years. Why not just leave it alone? Really? Rob Manfred, stop tinkering with the game. Stop tinkering with the ball. Stop tinkering with all these newfound gadgets and newfangled devices and all this statistical nonsense. Well, you know, the games need to last 2 hours and 32 minutes and 12 seconds because of this, that, and the other. Now you got TV involved, and TV which broadcasts the games. Listen, folks, the game didn't have the time frame, the time limits. They want to get these games in a certain amount of time, but don't you think it's counterintuitive to have a game go shorter, which actually cheats the television advertisers and the TV station themselves? What's wrong with that picture? It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? Because you would think that the television organizations want the longest games possible so they could do what? Sell more advertising. Because chances are that their live sporting events are going to draw more advertising dollars than, I guess, the average TV program. That seems logical to me. But then again, this is not one of those long-standing evergreen shows where we're going to play this one over and over. No, this is one of those ones as of today. And so you ask yourself, why do they try to tinker with the game? For 155 years, since 1871, the game's been going and going and going. Yeah, there's been a little dispute whether to include the National Association as Major League or not. Whatever. So you think about all Major League. Look, even Major League historical totals go back 150 years, and they're saying, well, maybe this other 5 years for the National Association as a Major League as well. But you have to, because that was the standard back then. So why wouldn't you do it? And so that leads us up to today. We say, well, geez, Major League Baseball, we're playing a different game. Or are we? We're playing a different game only because we have a bunch of statistical nonsense here. And this is the problem with it. So, look, I'm looking at Baseball Reference right now. If you don't know it, go check it out. Baseball-reference.com. It's kind of like the baseball Bible, if you will. They have the same thing for football, basketball, hockey, whatever. And so, of course, running down the standings, we're going to do that just because we can. Starting with the National League East with the Mets at 21-9. 21-9, that's pretty damn good. The Atlanta Braves 14-15 in second place, which is a little shocking. Actually, they're not in second place, but in the grand scheme of things, in this particular setting, they're in second place. So here's what we're going to do, just so you get a better reference as to what the actual standings are. We're going to go ahead and give you what they actually are, because Baseball Reference puts in a whole different set of metrics in the grand scheme of things. And you say, well, wait a minute, those records don't seem appropriate in order. Okay, fine. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go right to MLB standings as opposed to any other organization you could check them out at. And then we're going to take a look from, MajorLeagueBaseball.com or the 4-letter network. Doesn't matter. Either way, let's check it out because we can. And while you look at it, let's say the American League. Now let's go back to the National League. I started with the National League, and let's go with the National League. So in the National League, it is the New York Mets at 21-10. And yeah, they're 3.5 games ahead of the Phillies at 17-13. Is that what we expected? Pretty much. The Atlanta Braves are coming back to normal with that really slow start. Super slow start, but they're only 6.5 back, and that is a very winnable division. So the Mets are good. They're not great. Philadelphia can't close games out. There's a problem there. And Atlanta, when they get healthier, look, when they get Ronald Acuna Jr. back, they're going to be a regular team right in the middle of contention where they belong. And Atlanta is awfully tough. The Washington Nationals are, well, they're 5 games under 500, but they're not a horrible team. And you ask yourself, who is the worst team in that division? Head and shoulders, it's the Miami Marlins. Now, over in the Central, it is the Cubs at 18-13, and they're 2 games up on the Brewers and the Reds, which are both 16-15, and the Reds just lost a doubleheader. So, unfortunately for them, they're not looking that great with that, but they're only a couple of games off the pace. Very winnable division. St. Louis, who's always hanging around at 4 games back, 3 under 500. And Pittsburgh somehow is 7 games under 500 and 6 games out of first place. Not really sure how Pittsburgh is in that position. I would imagine that St. Louis would be in the cellar there, but who the hell knows what's going on with them? Over the West, where all the power is, in my opinion, the toughest division of baseball, at least the top 4, with the Dodgers at 21-10, same record as the New York Metropolitans. And the Padres are sitting a game and a half back at 19-11, with the Giants only a half game behind them at 19-12. Tell you what, Zach Manassian has really turned that Giants team into a stable organization. As I see it, they were pretty good, but now I think they're really headed in the right direction. They've got some real players on that team. And Arizona 16-14, 2 games over 500, 4.5 back. We're going to continue on with baseball. When we come back from the circus, break in just a few minutes, folks. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UppercutChops.com.
Welcome back
to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows, and of course, check out the store. Lots of great items at the store on thesportscircus.com. Hats, hoodies, t-shirts, sweatpants, sweat coats, travel mugs, pillows, mouse pads, you name it, they're all there. A shameless plug, of course, for the Sports Circus. And make sure you check it out, folks. Lots of good items there, all made in these United States of America. Yes! All right, a big welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the Yankees, 49ers, and Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcoming everybody else up and down the West Coast, throughout the heartland, all the way down to Auburn, Alabama, WAUD. Thanks for driving home with us. And over in Atlanta, Georgia, 99.1 FM, WDJY. Thanks for waking up with us over here on the Circus and all the other affiliates for television and cable and streaming. And, of course, on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Big welcome to everybody on that group. A fun page. It's actually just a group to participate, talk about your favorite foods and your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes. Check it out, Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right, this baseball thing here in the National League. You ask yourself, okay, so the Mets, Cubs, Dodgers, they're all in first place. And are they overtakeable? Can they be overtaken? Yes, they can. Who can win the West? I believe it's the toughest division in baseball. I got to tell you, any one of these four teams, I've got Arizona still coming out of the National League West, despite the fact they're 2 over, sitting 4.5 back. Look, the Dodgers are beatable. We've already seen that. They've already lost 10 games. And yes, they have a run scored of 167. 167 is not the best, of course, in the National League, which happens to be the Northsiders from Chicago have scored 184 runs, and they beat the Drums. They beat the Dodgers like a drum when they played the Dodgers, and they played them really, really well. Now, the Dodgers have also given up 132 runs, so they're not immune. And look, these guys, their pitching is not that good. Yes, they got a couple of guys on the shelf. The Cubs have given up a whopping 137 runs, so they're just basically outscoring everybody in a slugfest. Now, if you look at defense, the better teams in the National League, you have to look at teams like the New York Mets. They have actually scored 148 runs and only given up 94 runs. That's a big differential, a plus 54. And they're almost unbeatable at home at 13-2. Now, another good team at home would be, well, better yet, on the defensive side from pitching, would be the San Diego Padres. They've given up a league-leading only 90 runs in 30 games. Now, that's pretty damn good. And they've scored 118 times. So these guys are looking good at a plus 28. So, I mean, they're not winning by much, but they're winning games. And remember, they don't have Juan Soto anymore, right? Because Juan Soto has left the building, as we know. So he went from there to the Yankees, now to the Mets. Well, and guess what? All those teams are playing pretty damn good. But when you look at the defensive side of it, it is the Mets and it is the Padres that are leaps and bounds the best teams on defense. With scoring, we know it's the Northsiders from Chicago, and it's obviously the Dodgers. And I will throw the Milwaukee Brewers in there at scoring just a handful of runs less than the Dodgers, along with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks, boy, they are a fun team to watch. These guys, I have to tell you, they play small ball. They know how to win the tight games. And look, on the road, they're 8-6, and at home, they're 8-8. They get off to a little bit of a slow start, but these guys can play, and Corbin Carroll is doing exactly what we thought when he was Rookie of the Year, exactly what we thought he could do. This kid is legit. So now when you look at the bad teams in the National League, the first thing that sticks out, of course, is the Colorado Rockies. Somebody asked me early in the year, they said, who's the worst team in baseball? They said, is it going to be the White Sox again? I said, actually, no. I said, head and shoulders above everybody else, it'll be the Colorado Rockies because they really have maybe two pieces on that team, and that's it. And I would think Doyle, who is probably their best piece, is going to likely get dealt off sometime before the trade deadline because they just don't need him. And he's not that big of a draw, but he does hit some home runs. He throws the leather, and I think that's where the biggest value is because he's a really good defender. and look for Doyle to catch on with a team that A, needs a center fielder, and also that needs somebody that can hit the ball. So I think this is a guy that you may even see him migrate to, I guess we're going to get to these guys in a little bit, but maybe Seattle, because Seattle is desperately looking for some bats on their team. And these guys, I mean, they're scoring runs, well, they're giving up a lot of runs, but it's not the same Seattle team that we saw last year, but these guys need some pieces for sure. So Colorado clearly head and shoulders below everybody else. Let's face it, they got 5 wins. They're 5-25. I mean, folks, seriously, 5-25? I mean, that's really bad. Really bad. And let's face it, not even the White Sox are that bad this year. But who else is better than National League? Just the Rockies. Everybody else. Well, I'm going to give it to the Marlins, too, because the Marlins, they certainly don't have a lot of pieces there. Sandy Alcantara is going to end up getting dealt off likely before the 4th of July or even Memorial Day. I think Alcantara is going to go away. But ultimately, I don't really see these guys being the Miami Marlins and Peter Bendix. This team's in the toilet right now. But Colorado's already been flushed down the toilet, and they're already at the rendering plant for all the leftovers. Now, over in the American League, looking at the American League East with the Yankees in first place, they're a game and a half over the Boston Red Sox, who didn't necessarily figure to be in second place, but they made some moves. And tell you what, Boston is playing pretty darn good baseball. Tampa, who always seems to give away their players, somehow they find themselves only 3.5 off the pace, yet they're 2 games under 500, but they're right in the thick of everything, along with Toronto with the same record at 3.5 back. And the Orioles, who we thought would probably win the division and probably go on to potentially play Kansas City in the American League Championship Series. It's the Orioles in last place at 6 under. And as I look at the Orioles, I scratch my head and say, okay, well, Gunnar Henderson's not really hitting the ball. He's been in. It's not like he's hitting the ball. But the rest of the team's not hitting the ball either. Yet they've only scored 120 runs, but they've given up 169. The pitching isn't doing exactly what they thought it would, but the loss of Mr. Corbin over to the Arizona Diamondbacks was a really big loss. So they lost, as I see it, arguably their best pitcher. But that doesn't account for a 49-run differential. The Orioles just aren't hitting the damn ball. 3-7 in their last 10. They've scored 50 less runs than they've given up. That's a sign of a bad baseball team. Now, the Blue Jays, again, you thought they would probably be a little bit better. They're in the same boat. They've only scored 104 runs, yet given up 138. And that's not very good. They're 288 in their last 10, and they sit 2 games ahead of Toronto or ahead of Baltimore somehow. But that's bad baseball. The other 3 teams ahead of them are on the plus side. They're playing pretty good. Over in the Central, this is kind of what we thought what would happen in there. Yes, we see the White Sox in last place, and they've won 7 out of 30 games, and they stink again, if you know what I mean. Now, it's the Detroit Tigers, who you sort of expected to be at the top of this, and they're 19-12, and they have played pretty solid baseball. The Clevelands, we won't even call them the Guardians. I don't even like to call them the Guardians. The Clevelands are 4 games over 500, a game and a half back. The Royals, who I think are going to win the division, sit 3 back, but a game over 500. The Twinkies are 13-18, who I thought would at least play 500 ball because they probably have some of the best pitching in the American League. Not the best, but Detroit probably has a couple of those guys, of course, with Skubal. But again, when you look at that division, you scratch your head and say, wait a minute, it's Cleveland at a run differential at minus 25. They've given up 25 more than they've actually scored, but they've only scored 114 runs. Look at the Royals. They've only scored 97 runs in 31 games, whereas the White Sox have scored 101 runs in 30 games. So what the heck is going on in Kansas City? I mean, Bobby Witt's doing what Bobby Witt does, but what about the rest of the team? They're only a game over. They're in striking distance for sure, and they've won 8 out of their last 10. But what the hell's going on with the Royals? They just can't seem to get the hits when they matter, I guess. Now, over in the West, here's something you wouldn't necessarily believe. Seattle is on top at 18-12, and they do have really good pitching. And they've played solid ball, very solid ball. The Astros, who you had thought would probably be towards the bottom of the division, are 2 over and 2 behind the Mariners. And the A's are 1 over. The A's are much improved, folks. If you don't know, if you haven't seen, I guess it would be the Sacramento Athletics at this point. If you haven't watched the A's play, let me tell you something. This team is gearing up to play in Las Vegas in a couple of years. Their stadium's going to be done. I think they're going to play the 27 season right here in Las Vegas as the Las Vegas A's, but they will be a team that will be in contention at that time. Now, the Texas Rangers have the same record at 16-5 or 16-15, and they sit 2.5 back just like the A's do, but the A's actually sit ahead of them in the standings, and it's the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, of Orange County, of the Santa Ana Riverbed, of Interstate 5, of Orange County, of Earth, whatever, with a rock pile in center field at 12-17, 5 games under 500. And they're, let's face it, they've only scored 106 runs. They've given up 147. Look, Perry Manassian can only do what he can do. Artie Moreno, in my opinion, will not take his hands off the controls, and he won't let Perry do what he can do. Unfortunately, it sets up Perry to be the bad guy. And let's face it, this is a team with some pieces, but they're not very good pieces, because it was the Angels that went out and signed a bunch of former White Sox players that at one time were good in their career. But folks, they're not very good right now. Think about that. So the American League, your worst teams right now, the Angels, and it's the Orioles, -49 and -41 for the Angels, -41 in differential with the Orioles, yet they sit 5.5 back along with the Angels 5.5 back. What a disaster the American League is right now, but Seattle on top in the West is probably the biggest surprise yet. Back here in a few minutes with more American League in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere, lots more to come. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello, Americans. It's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time. That's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Eric Master Sale, live from Las Vegas in the AMTV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Again, for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out, folks. And welcome back to everybody. Radio, TV, you know who you are. And the extended applause continues. All right, welcome back to everybody. As I said, TV and radio, streaming, whatnot, you know who you are. Also on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Make sure you check that out, folks. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Sticking with baseball, and we think about the idea of all these statistics, all these analytics and all this other crap. So guess what? We're going to dive into it just because we can. How do you like that? Now, there are most likely playoff scenarios, right? Your top seeds and first round buys and wild card rounds and all this other fun stuff. Let's take a quick look at that. In the National League, believe it or not, your top seed as projected by a certain formula that's handled through these statistical people. They say that the Chicago Cubs right now are projected to be the top seed in the National League and first round bye, along with division winner, the New York Metropolitans. Now over in the American League, they have the Detroit Tigers and the New York Yankees. Also division winners in the National League, the Dodgers, a wild card with the Padres, a wild card with Arizona or possibly the Giants. Over in the American League, division winner, of course, you've got the other division winner being Seattle. So you got Detroit, New York, Seattle, and then your wild cards as Houston, Kansas City, Tampa Bay. Now, Kansas City, I think, wins the division, but either way, Kansas City gets in. Kansas City's got a real shot to go to the World Series. Then they're going to get a rematch with the New York Yankees. Because last year with the Yankees, it didn't turn out so well, but I think these Royals are going to make a move or two, and don't be surprised if you see possibly Lewis Robert go from the White Sox to the Royals. Yes, a trade in the same division because the White Sox aren't ready to win right now. So I would think that there could be a trade there. You might see a trade of, that Doyle guy that I mentioned for Colorado. Doyle could actually go the short distance from Denver to Kansas City, which for all you football fans out there, you know it's a very short distance in the grand scheme of things. Doyle could end up, because he steals bases, he's very similar to Pete Crow Armstrong that plays for the Northsiders in Chicago. And so Doyle is very similar, a very speedy center fielder with a really good glove. The guy steals bases. The guy gets hits when they matter. And that Crow Armstrong is turning into be one hell of a player. You know, he went to school at Stanford. He's a very, very good player. He's a smart guy, too. And so I happen to believe that Doyle could end up with the Royals, and that'll be a real cheap get for them because you think about who may be out there when it comes time to this trade deadline and all this other stuff. And you look at these teams, all the bad teams in the league. I mean, who can make a move and who can't make a move, right? And so with these projected playoffs, yeah, it's too early to do these, but you look at where there are holes. The Royals have a couple of holes. I believe, and this is just in the playoff teams, mind you. The Giants have a couple of holes. The D-backs maybe have a hole. Maybe. The Padres possibly one or two holes. And the Dodgers certainly have a hole. But theirs is more on the pitching side, I believe, on the relief side, because they have the same problem that the Phillies do. Notice the Phillies weren't even in these projections. So the Phillies can't seem to close games out. So you ask yourself, let's stick with the Royals. What do the Royals need? The Royals need some more productive bats. So if we look at it, we say, all right, who can they pick up? Okay, the Nationals are one team that they could make a deal with, and C.J. Abrams could be a guy because he hits for power. He does hit for average. He steals base. He's got a good glove, too. He's just about a five-tool player. And so C.J. Abrams comes to mind. He's a young guy, and they can really get him for a cheap price. So the Royals may target him from the bad teams. From Miami, there's a guy by the name of Mervis that they may be willing to make a deal with. And Mervis is a guy that I think some teams are really taking a hard look at And you say, well, maybe he's one of those guys that we want because we know we're going to get him super, super cheap. And if they get him super cheap, well, that means they could sign him to a long-term deal and then maybe do one of those sign and trade kind of things. And that's the stuff that I look at. I say, well, can they make these kinds of deals? And I think they can. But when you look at the deals, you say, what makes sense for both teams? Because remember, they're not just going to give away great players. And when you look at some of these teams, you say, all right, well, who makes the most sense? Look, the one guy I do like that's not going to be available is going to be Pavin Smith because he's with Arizona. He's kind of a utility player, but he's a good one. He's a real good one. He's one of those guys that most people don't know about. Now, Arizona also has a very good shortstop in Perdomo. And, of course, who do they have? They have Corbin Carroll. And they've got some really good players. They picked up Josh Naylor from the Clevelands, because I won't say the other part of their name because I don't like it. But my point is, they've got some real good pieces over there. So maybe that Doyle kid may mix in with a division rival as well. The problem is, I don't think Colorado is going to want to deal him off to a team right there in their own backyard where that's the only piece they have. Now, whereas the White Sox aren't ready to win, Colorado certainly isn't ready to win, but they don't even have a draw on the door. So therein lies a small problem. But sticking back with the Royals, I got to go back to them. So who could the Royals take? Maybe Abrams might be a possibility. And who does Pittsburgh have? Would Pittsburgh be willing to give up O'Neal Cruz? Now, O'Neal Cruz is the poor man's version of Ellie De La Cruz, in my opinion. But O'Neal Cruz was dealt with wisely, I think, by the Pittsburgh management because he's a guy that basically is a carbon copy of sorts of Ellie De La Cruz. Very fast, hits for power. I think he hits for better average. He's got a good arm. He makes a lot of errors, just like Ellie De La Cruz. But O'Neal Cruz might be available out there at some point for the Royals. Now, over in the National League, besides the other teams, maybe there might be a deal somewhere where the Royals are going to have to take a team that, look, they have a little bit of pitching. They don't have a ton, but they've got good fundamental players. Do the Dodgers make a deal with the Royals? Why do you say the Dodgers? Because the Dodgers have holes. And maybe the Dodgers can make a deal with the Royals that could help both of those teams. Now, who else is sort of on the cusp here? Look, Tampa Bay, we already know they're gonna probably fade right towards the end of it. Houston is one of those teams that's rebuilding on the fly. And boy, are they sorry they got rid of Alex Bregman. They didn't sign him because Bregman is lighting it up in Boston. He's playing with a real purpose there. And so this guy, coupled with the pieces they've got there from Rafi Devers to Rafaela. Rafaela is one of those guys that most people don't know about. He's not hitting very well, but he hits timely, kind of like Kike Hernandez does for the Dodgers. So they've got some good pieces up there in Boston. I don't think that there's a deal with the Royals and the Red Sox. I don't think there's a deal anywhere, honestly, in the American League outside of maybe the Angels, and I don't see the Angels with anything good. Joe Adell is one guy that they have that they could make a deal with. Joe Adell is one of the few pieces, and even Mike Trout. Look, Mike Trout is a great fielder. The problem is, he's winding down his career. They've moved him to right field. He does make spectacular plays, but he's injured every year. Now, I know I have Mike Trout on my fantasy baseball team, and it kind of makes me ask the question, well, is Mike Trout a real dependable player? He's day-to-day again. Day-to-day again. And look, Mike Trout, honestly, he's hitting .173. He's got 14 runs scored, 9 homers, 18 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, but he's day-to-day again and again. And, of course, this time he was removed from a game against the Mariners for precautionary reasons with his left knee soreness. That means Mike Trout is going to be on the shelf probably yet again for a bunch of games. Do the Royals want him? No. The Rangers are going to be there in contention. The A's have a couple of pieces, and the A's might be able to make a deal with the Royals, but I don't see the Royals being able to make a lot of deals with teams other than possibly Cincinnati, possibly Pittsburgh, possibly maybe with Colorado and the Dodgers. I think that's really it. I don't think any other team's going to want to deal with them. And the Cubs have just about everything they need. The Mets have just about everything they need. The Tigers, same thing. And the Yankees, same thing. These are solid teams from top to bottom. So the Padres are pretty darn close too. So the question is, who's going to want to make deals and who needs to make deals? Those bubble teams. Milwaukee's going to be out there dealing, and they've got some real good pieces. And Atlanta is going to be making deals too. The Phillies I think the Phillies are going to make a deal just for the sport of it. But over in the American League, the Red Sox will make deals. I believe the Orioles are going to be desperate enough to make deals. Now, they're not going to end up in last place. The Orioles are going to be desperate. They will make deals. And Cleveland's going to stand pat. Minnesota will likely stand pat too. Seattle will make deals because they need hitters. And who can they go to? Maybe the Dodgers. What do the Dodgers need? They need pitching. What does Seattle have? They have pitching. Watch for the Mariners and the Dodgers to make deals. Now, that makes a hell of a lot of sense because, A, they're both in the same time zone, and also there's no lag in performance because, let's face it, they're just a 2-hour flight from each other, and I think their players will blend in nicely. And watch to see if maybe the Angels and Dodgers don't make another deal, or maybe even the Angels and Padres. You never know, folks. We're going to be back here talk a little bit more just on the hitting side of baseball in just a few moments here on the Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA. The only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Remaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by The Sports Circus. Make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, prior guests, recorded shows, and all of our partners, which can be found on the partners page. One of those is the music of Jason Owens, country music star Jason Owens. Check him out at jasonowensmusic.com. That's jasonowensmusic.com. We did a 14-part series with Jason recently, and I have to tell you, folks, there's some really good information there, and the guy's good. He knows how to play. Man, he can play the heck out of that guitar. Got a great fiddle player and a good bass drummer, or a bassist and a good drummer as well. I tell you what, good music, good traditional country music. If you like it, check it out, jasonowensmusic.com, and tell him the circus sent you. All right. Back here to the circus and back here to baseball. And we were talking about analytics from the top of the show, and I was looking at this interesting, I guess it was an interesting set. It's a data set showing where the teams are right now, what's remaining, what the averages are, what the, I guess with 90% confidence, what the best and worst would be, and so forth and so on. So when we think about the chances of making postseasons or wild card or division win and reaching the LDS, LCS, and all that crap. So I've got all that stuff here. So let's start with the National League East just because we can. With the Mets, of course, we know they're in first place right now. And look, they're 21-10, whatever right now. Remaining schedule, they got a shot to really go 75-56 on average. Actually, their total wins on average are supposed to be, according to this data set, somewhere around 96 wins. And I guess in the best case scenario, the Mets could win 105 games. In the worst case scenario, according to this data set, they'll win 87 games. So it looks like the Mets are going to be no worse than 12 over 500. 93.6% chance of making the postseason. Wild card, probably 7.9%. Division winner, 85.7%. League Division Series, 76.3%. League Championship Series, 40%. That's pretty high. The only team that's higher than them would be the Cubs, and we're going to get to them in a minute. 23% chance to win the pennant, and that's the highest in the National League. And, of course, to win the World Series, they, believe it or not, sit behind the Cubs. Cubs at 13.6%, which I find completely, utterly and the Mets at 11.2%. Of course, there are some changes that are going to be made, whatever. But I find the data set's pretty interesting. Now, Atlanta, they don't give a whole hell of a lot of shot to win the division, but they do give them a pretty good chance to get into a wild card spot. And it's not as good as those teams in the National League West where all the power is, because they actually have all their teams for the wild card, the top four teams between the Dodgers, Padres, D-backs, Giants, they're all 46, 46, 44.5, 45.7 kind. So they are the teams that are projected to be the wild card teams. So as the division leaders, and it's only in the West where the Dodgers at 80.9% chance to win the division, but San Diego at 79.1%, right behind them. And they're giving Arizona 61.1, the Giants 61.2, and of course the Rockies at an abysmal 0.1%. But when you look at how balanced the National League West is, you say, well, the data sets are interesting because they've got, in the National League West, they've got the best case scenario for the Dodgers and Padres each to have a record of 102-60. And the Dodgers at worst at 83-79, and the Padres at 84-78. So technically, they've got the Padres sitting above the Dodgers. Somehow they have the Dodgers winning the division literally by a 1 percentage point, 1.5 percentage points. And maybe it's because of head-to-head games. I can't imagine what else it could be. But the D-backs are right behind them, projected at 3 wins behind the Dodgers and Padres, along with the Giants, 99-63. That is sort of the 90 percentile of what they're looking at once they've crunched all the numbers. That's very interesting. Now, they've got the worst case scenario, the D-backs and Giants, both at 80 and 82. I don't really think that's going to happen. But ultimately, what I'm saying, folks, is the National League West is so strong that they've got 4 equal teams, and then, of course, Colorado, the punching bag. But what's interesting about it is you look at the National League Central, and there's a lot more distinction between the Northsiders from Chicago likely going to win the division, with the Brewers at 59.8%. The Cubs are at 93%. But when you look at these numbers, they don't really tell the full story, because they really have the Brewers finishing about 6 games off the pace from the Northsiders, and they have the Reds technically in the best case scenario 93 and 69, in the worst case scenario 74 and 88. I actually have the Reds with 85 wins and 81 losses. I'm sorry, and 77 losses. Yeah, it's 162 games. So I got the Reds at 85 wins for the season, and which is actually right smack in the middle, because you take these numbers at 93 and 74, the difference is 19, divided by 2, it's 9. Well, that puts you right there at 84 and change as far as the wins go. So my number is exactly where it's supposed to be, and I picked that one, I don't know, but January 1st. So my number was pretty good with them, but they have St. Louis ending up likely in 4th place and Pittsburgh ending up in the cellar, which I had pretty much figured those two teams to be at the bottom. I didn't think the Reds had enough. They're going to have to make some real deals. I still got Milwaukee to win that division, but I guess there's a lot more parity in the National League West. Over in the American League, I was going to talk about the hitting. Maybe I'll get to it. In the American League, they've got the Yankees as the clear-cut leader there, with Tampa Bay, believe it or not, Tampa Bay as the second-place team, with Tampa showing up somewhere around a 500 team. The Red Sox, they've got sort of the same thing. The Red Sox right now are overachieving, and they've got them playing, well, they've got them playing 500 ball, basically. Same thing with the Blue Jays. Actually, the Blue Jays under 500. And the Orioles right now, where they stand, looks like they're going to probably be, according to the number crunching they've done here, about 5 games under 500. Over in the American League Central, they've got the Tigers as being the best team, with the Royals about 12 games behind them. Doesn't matter whether the best or worst case scenario. They've got the Royals playing just above 500 ball. With Cleveland, I'm a little surprised at their numbers being below Kansas City's, but they've got Cleveland playing about 7 games below 500, and the Twinkies even less than that, being about 15 games under, which I don't even see that one. The White Sox, yeah, they've got them winning. They've got the White Sox winning in the best case scenario, going 63 and 99. In the worst case, 45 and 117. I think the White Sox are going to lose about 108 games in this, which is sort of right smack in the middle of that anyway. Over the American League West, they've got Seattle nosing out Houston, which is kind of crazy to me, because they've got the Rangers playing under 500 ball for the year, drastically under 500, and the Rangers actually are still the best team in the American League West. But the A's, they actually put ahead of the Rangers, and they do have the Angels in last place playing about 20 games under 500. I find that very, very interesting. And you say, well, why is it? Well, we've got this hitting situation. Hitting is contagious. And, of course, when you look at the alleged best hitters in the game, well, and you ask yourself, well, according to statistics through the games yesterday, you've got Aaron Judge as being essentially the best hitter in the game, allegedly. And they said this is according to MajorLeagueBaseball.com, with Judge, it's no stretch to say that we're witnessing history. Not only is he building a legendary career, but the run he has been on for the past year qualifies as nothing short of all-time heater. He's slashing 362, 489, 759, 60 home runs as projected, 155 RBIs, 13.6 WAR at that time. Oh, and he's batting over 400 this season. This is what they're saying. All right, fine. And what sparked all this? A change to his batting stance probably is the reason. Pete Alonso, they have as the second best hitter so far, and they say, well, he's crushing the ball. It's great, but not necessarily surprising for a player who has been one of the game's elite sluggers for several years now. And what's more fascinating about the Polar Bear's sensational start is that he owns one of the biggest drops in strikeout rate, close to 10%, and 10 percentage points anyway, and of any other hitter from 24 to 25. So between that and his excellent contact quality, Alonso's batting 346. Well, guess what? What does he have in front of him? Now he's got Juan Soto hitting in front of him. So maybe he's getting better pitches to hit. I don't know, because Juan Soto's not hitting as well. I guess pitchers would rather pitch to Juan Soto nowadays over Pete Alonso. Maybe that's why Alonso's getting better pitches. They've got Bobby Witt coming in third. And Bobby Witt Jr., let me tell you something. This kid is legit. He is, in my opinion, the best player in baseball today. Now, this guy rose into the top 3 after extending his hit streak to 20 games on Tuesday, batting .356 during that stretch to raise his season average to .316. Defending American League batting champ has only 2 home runs this far, but guess what? He leads the majors with 12 doubles. Bobby Witt Jr. is the best player in baseball. And show me the money, Shohei Ohtani as the 4th hitter, and I think Ohtani can't hit his way out of a wet paper bag if they pitch him up and in. But Ohtani isn't exactly the poster child for baseball's dead strength, and of course, given that he didn't homer until his 8th game back from paternity leave, and that was just yesterday. With that said, who cares about the exit velocity off of Sandy Alcantara, all that garbage? I don't care about that stuff. There's more of that stat nonsense. Look, the guy hasn't been hitting that well, slashing, well, a hell of a lot than what he was doing last year, and he's certainly not the same player. But we're going to give it to Fernando Tatis Jr. as being the guy that should be in his place. This guy's playing yet like a superstar again, and 4 years after finishing his 3rd in the ML MVP as a 22-year-old. This guy's doing it all, hitting for average .330, hitting for power, 8 homers, runs batted in, 7 steals, and playing top-notch outfield defense. The guy could throw some leather. And at +4 outs above average. So like Alonso, Tatis has slashed his strikeout rate without sacrificing his contact quality, which is really big. So the guy can actually hit the damn ball, put the ball in play. He's not striking out, and guys are advancing whether he makes it out or not. And here's Corbin Carroll sitting right behind him. I mentioned Corbin Carroll, folks. Watch out for this kid. He won Rookie of the Year a couple of years ago. He had a sophomore slump, and man, he is back, and he's back with a vengeance. And this guy, I don't care whether you say, well, he's cooled off a bit over last week. Who cares? It's nice when this guy's posting a slugging percentage of .536, and you could actually qualify as cooled off for whoever says that. In that span, has included 3 home runs and 3 triples, with 2 of the latter coming against the Braves on Sunday when Carroll showed off his 98th percentile sprint speed. That's right. If Carroll's racing his way to a 3-bagger, folks, he's going to make it. This kid is unbelievable. If you don't have any Corbin Carroll baseball cards like Bobby Witt Jr., you better go get them. You could still get them, but man, this guy is Speedy Gonzalez out there, and he can motor. He is a 5-tool player. He's got a great arm, great speed, a great glove. He hits for average, and he certainly hits for power, too. This guy is a superhuman human. All right, folks, that's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you in about 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA. Simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.